We're going to get started. And hello. So if we haven't met before, my name is Diana. I'm a CELTA and DELTA trainer at International Language Center, which is a Cambridge Teaching Qualifications Center, which is based in Kiev, Ukraine, right? And due to the situation, we're working mostly on, well, only online right now, but we're still very busy. Delivering CELTA and DELTA courses to people from all over the world, actually, as long as the time zone is correct, right? And I remember that even with this webinar today, some people joined us earlier, so I hope that they will come back. Yes, but the time difference could be a bit tricky. So let's get started. And today I'm going to talk about CELTA and DELTA, which are, I think, among the most popular courses, well, English language teaching courses that we have in the world right now. And a lot of people actually do not know what the difference between those two courses are. All right, so I can hear people who unmuted themselves. I'm going to mute them. Right, so yes, and one of the questions people often ask me is, which is better, CELTA or DELTA? And well, it's a very difficult question to answer because actually, well, they're both equally good, but they can teach you sort of different things. It's not that one is better than the other. It's just they are different courses which focus on, well, it might seem some things which are the same. Yes, both of them are on English language teaching, and they help teachers to improve their skills, but they're still quite different, and I'm going to talk about this today. Right? So first, I'd like to know who you are. And if you could, please take a moment and write about yourself. I can see that Ahmed has already said hi. Right, so could you please write your answers to these good questions in the chat box, all right? And well, so here is my example. So I'm based in Kiev normally. Right now, I'm not, but I'm still kind of connected to the center there. Work for ILC, which is private school. The students that I teach are 16 to 70 years old, and I've been teaching for 12, well, now actually more years post CELTA. Right, so please write your answers there. Talia, thank you. Right. Well, I hope that you are safe in Kiev right now. All right. Yes, hello, Mohammed. Good to see you here again. Right. Okay, could you please write a little bit more about the kind of teaching that you do? Okay, as I promise, more people are joining. That's very good. All right, so while you're writing, I'll move on to the next slide, but please write your answers here. Right. Okay. Yes. All right. So now I'd like you to tell me this about you. So which of the statements best describes you? So why did you come to this? All right, I can see some answers. Why did you decide to attend this webinar today? Could you please write A, B, or C in the chat for the statement that best describes you? Delta, that's good. All right, board coming. All right, so I like the answers. So yes, that looks like that is going to be an interesting seminar because yes, the thing that I am going to talk about is how those two courses are different and who they're more suited for. So here's what we're going to talk about. What CELTA is, CELTA course requirements. What Delta is, the requirements for that course, the differences between the two qualifications, and what Delta modules, because there are actually 3 of them involved, how to prepare for these courses, whichever one you decide to choose. Right, so of course, there will be time for me to answer your questions after that. All right, so first, we're going to start with CELTA, which is one of the most popular qualifications, right? So out there in the world right now. Okay, so about the course, if you don't know that, it is considered to be a pre-service course, which is actually very popular with experienced teachers as well. It is highly recognized around the world, so it's much easier to get a job in another country if you have this qualification. It combines theory and practice, which makes it kind of unique because there are a lot of courses that prepare teachers for, well, which give teachers information about how to teach English. However, what makes CELTA different is the practical component. And one of the common myths about it is that CELTA is very theoretical course, which is not true because it's a very practical one due to that practical component, which includes teaching practice. So every candidate, every teacher will have to teach for 6 hours during the course, and the trainers are there to help them do it better. And we're focusing on practice. It is assessed by Cambridge representative, which is great. It means that the standards of the courses wherever you take it in the world should be more or less the same. And we are also proud by the rigorous selection and training of the CELTA tutors. So they do have to go through the special training. They have to have the very specific qualifications and experience as well, right? And all of that is moderated by Cambridge University Press and Assessment. So now, I'd like you to have a look at the course requirements, and after the information that I've given you about the course, could you please tell me which one of these requirements that you can see on this slide is actually false? Okay, so there are 4 requirements. Which one of them is not true? Right, so please write the number, 1, 2, 3, or 4. You can see one answer. Right? Anyone else? Yes, that is actually correct. Thank you very much for your answers. Yes, 4 is not correct because, as I mentioned before, this is considered to be a pre-service course, which means that technically a teacher or anyone with no teaching experience can actually take this course, right? But here are the requirements. So you have to be at least 18 years old to have a high school diploma. Your level of English has to be C1 or IELTS 7 plus. And the most important thing is the potential and the desire to develop the necessary skills as a teacher and the motivation to learn. Right, so in order to get the certificate, you need to complete the following things on the course. So as I already mentioned, you have to teach on the course, you have to teach real learners you have to teach groups of students that the center organizes for you. So that includes 6 hours of moderated teaching practice at 2 distinctly different levels. For example, you will teach the first half of the course at the elementary level, and the second half you'll be working with intermediate level learners, right? So the next thing that you're going to have to do on the course is 6 hours of observations of experienced teachers. So some of those will be video observations with discussions, and of course, you will be observing your tutors teach. There are also 4 written assignments, which is kind of important because this is the sort of theoretical component. But at this level, at the level of the CELTA course, you do not have to write really long assignments. They're 750 to 1,000 words long, so they're not that scary. And there are 4 of them. And you need to complete 120 contact hours, which includes attending input sessions, observing other teachers teach your peers, because we're all doing this together. So all the lessons which are taught on the course are observed by all the teachers taking the course and the tutors as well. We will talk about the lessons after that, and there will be assisted lesson planning because we'll be planning the lessons together. And you need to be prepared to spend about 80 hours doing homework, writing your assignments, preparing lessons, or analyzing language. Right. So the course is continuously assessed. That means that you're assessed on the lessons that you teach, on the portfolio of the lessons that you teach, and the assignments that you submit. Right. So you need to complete 4 assignments, but you need to pass at least 3 of the assignments. So one of them could be a fail. Right. If you have a question, you can write it in the chat. I will be answering questions at the end of the course, and I will definitely scroll through all the questions and do that. So please, please, please write the questions in the chat box. Right. So also you will be teaching, and you need to show that your lessons from the first one to the 8th one, that your teaching is actually getting better and you're making progress. That means that the course is continuously assessed. The possible grades for the course are the pass, pass B, pass A. B is higher, A is higher than that. So of course, there is the fail grade. So it is possible to fail the CELTA course. So yes, people do need to work hard. And I know that some of you have taken it. I can see at least one of my graduates here. So yes, you definitely know that the course involves a lot of hard work. And the grades are decided by the tutors. So the tutors have the final say on your grades. However, they have to be discussed with the assessor, but still the tutor decides on the grade. All right. So there are different course formats. So there is the full-time offline or online CELTA. So these courses are at least 4 weeks long. If you take your CELTA completely online, that means that your course has to be a bit longer than 4 weeks. So it could be like 4 weeks and 2 days, or some schools do 5 weeks for online courses. And there is the part-time offline or online CELTA, which is at least 10 weeks long. Normally, most of the courses, this is what makes it part-time. So that means that most of the work is done at the weekend. Right, so moving on. Yeah, I forgot to mention that there is also the mixed mode course, but where you do teaching online and face-to-face. For example, the first half of the course, you are teaching face-to-face, and the second half of the course, you would be teaching online. So that option also exists, but not in Ukraine, unfortunately, at the moment. So here's how the course is organized, and this is an example of our part-time course, which proves to be over the last 2 or 3 years, starting from the COVID times, the part-time option has kind of become more popular. So yes, Ahmed, the certificate is the same for the online and offline courses. Yes, because the mode is not indicated on the certificate that you get from Cambridge. Yes, sorry, couldn't resist answering the question. It's a common one. All right, so with the part-time courses at our center, for example, on Fridays we do input sessions. So on Friday evening, there would be 2 or 3 input sessions, which are moderated and conducted by the tutors. On Saturdays, we have teaching practice feedback, assisted lesson planning, and questions and answer sessions about the assignments or some guidance as to how to write the assignments. So we try to keep the input low on Saturdays because people are normally very tired after teaching practice and all the teaching practice feedback that you have to attend, you have to be present there, and you have to participate in. Right. So the important thing about the CELTA course, and this is one of the things that makes it very different from Delta, is that throughout the course, you are in contact with your tutors all the time at our center. Well, of course, during the week, for example, starting from Sunday to Thursday, if it's a part-time course, so you can text them. We have a messenger that we use for the course, but on Fridays and Saturdays, you are always there with your tutors. So you're always in contact with them. You're always asking them questions. You can get their answers. You're planning lessons with them. And you get as much support as possible during the CELTA course. And I'll be saying that, well, this later, but Delta is quite different because Delta means that you're doing most of the work on your own. The tutor is there to kind of direct you a little bit, but of course there will be less guidance and support. Here, we're basically with the candidates all the time and we're always working with them. So now let's move on to the Delta. So this is a diploma in teaching English to speakers of other languages. And one thing that I didn't mention about the CELTA course, the CELTA is level 5 in the British system. So it is kind of equivalent of a specialist degree, while Delta is at level 7 of accreditation. So that means that this means that the level is higher, and the some of the Delta modules and the coursework can also be given credit if you decide. You can get credit for it if you decide to do a master's degree, because it is at the master's degree level. So CELTA is kind of a specialist degree. You know, when you get the right skills to perform a job, Delta is higher. It's closer to master's degree in English language teaching. So this is actually an advanced blend of theory and practice, and you will see that there is more emphasis on theory and academic writing at this level on this course. It deepens your knowledge and understanding of English language teaching. It's also it is also internationally recognized, like CELTA. It is highly respected and the benchmark for quality. And in most cases, well, based on our experience over the last 9 months, I know that it has been much easier for Ukrainians to get a job with a reputable company if they had Delta, not CELTA. However, in some countries, for example, in the UK, they couldn't get a job without CELTA. So both of these certificates are very good and are reliable and are helpful. However, Delta is more suited for those teachers who are aiming for senior teaching roles. And for a lot of jobs, that will be a must. For example, if you want to be director of studies at some private school. So Cambridge Delta consists of 3 modules, actually. There are 3 separate chunks there. So the first one is understanding language, methodology, and resources for teaching, which is actually an exam that you need to take. And you can take it anywhere in the world as long as you find a Cambridge center that administers this exam. But it is just one exam. You sit down, you write it, and you wait for your results for 2 or 3 months. Delta Module 2 is developing professional practice. And this is the module which is most similar to CELTA, because this is the one that involves teaching practice and assessment of your teaching. However, you have to do much less teaching at the Delta level than you would at the CELTA level, because at the CELTA level, you need to complete 6 hours of assessed teaching practice, and the tutors and all other participants are there for you. At the Delta level, you have to teach basically just 5 lessons, the diagnostic one, and 4 lessons which are assessed. That's it. And module 3 is the extended assignment. Basically, that means that you are designing a course. If you choose option 1, which is extending practice and ELT specialism. So there are some specialisms for you to choose from, and you need to design a course which is at least 20 hours long. And you have to write it all up. You have to do needs analysis. You have to say how you're going to assess learning on the course, what principles this course is based on. There is a lot of theory behind that, but the assignment itself has to be quite short because the body and the description of the course is only 450 words long. The second option is English language teaching management. So you can choose either teaching and choose from one of the 16 specialisms, or you can do this extended assignment of on management, which is the second option. Right. The important thing about the modules is that they can be taken at any time and in any order. If you want to, you can start with module 3. If you want to, you can start with module 1. I normally recommend starting with modules 1 or 2, because in my experience, and again, based on my experience, module 3 was let's be honest about it, was the most boring for me, and you have to do a lot of reading, and it's much easier to navigate in the reading that you have to do for that if you've got kind of modules 1 and 2 sort of under your belt. However, some people disagree with me. They've done it in different order and successfully passed, so it's up to you. And actually, there is no time limit. If the CELTA course, you start it and you finish it, either in 4 weeks or 13, 16, or 24 weeks. With Delta, you can take those modules separately, and you can decide you can take module 1, for example, this year, and then module 2 5 years later. It's all up to you when you feel like it. All right, so here are the requirements, which are quite different from CELTA. I'll remind you that the age for the CELTA is 18, for Delta is 21 years old. You have to be educated to a degree level. So for CELTA, you have to have a high school diploma. Here, you have to have a university degree. Initial English teaching certificates such as CELTA. So basically, this is for experienced teachers. The CELTA certificate is not a requirement, but it is a recommendation. And I hope that by the end of this webinar, you will understand why. But again, it is for those teachers who know what is taught. If you haven't taken the CELTA course, you need to know how things are done according to the communicative approach, which is emphasized and kind of promoted at the CELTA level, right? And you need to have 1 or 2 years in ELT, in English language teaching, in a variety of contexts. That is important. So I'll talk a bit more about that later. And your English level has to be not only C1, it's actually C2 now. And so one of the things people are normally worried about, and they are kind of right about that they have to have some academic writing skills, because there is much more research and writing to do at the Delta level. It's not a requirement for the CELTA course. And it has to be written well, in accordance with international conventions. So the academic writing is definitely a plus here. All right, so what is the difference between the courses? We've looked at the requirements. So the requirements for the Delta course are a bit higher than they are for the CELTA course. And who is the course for? So CELTA is a course for teachers with no experience or some experience in communicative language teaching. When I say some, I mean some in communicative language teaching. You can be teaching for 20 or 30 years, but using a different approach, right? So And that CELTA would be a very good course for you. CELTA is also for teachers whose level of English is C1. That is an important course requirement. It would be very difficult to teach a group of higher level learners, for example, upper intermediate B2 learners, if your level of English is not C1. You should be in the group then, not teaching them. While Delta is a course for teachers with teaching experience using the communicative approach. That basically means that you need to know what the communicative approach is about. You need to know how to structure skills and systems lessons based on the communicative approach or in accordance with the communicative approach. You need to know how to respond to learning, how to work with what students are doing in class, how to make your lessons more student-centered, how to use learner output to help them improve their English. All of those are skills which are formed at the CELTA level. So it could be very difficult for teachers to do Delta, especially Delta Module 2, without having done the CELTA course. There are exceptions, there are rare exceptions. For example, I remember one candidate who has been teaching at a school where almost everyone was a CELTA qualified teacher. So she was regularly observed by the directors of studies. There were webinars, seminars, professional development for opportunities for teachers. So basically she kind of knew everything that is taught at the CELTA level, right? So that's why she was able to pass the interview and to complete the course and get a good grade for it. But if you're still not sure what is done there, it is a good idea to take the CELTA course. Delta is also for teachers with experience in different teaching contexts. I've already mentioned that. So you need to, that could be the context could be different countries that you have worked in with speakers of other languages, could be monolingual classes where students speak one language, could be multilingual classes where students speak different languages and they do not share the same L1, could be English for specific purposes, academic purposes, exam preparation classes, one-to-one, business English, you name it. Right, so those are the contexts we're talking about. And Delta is also for teachers whose level of English is C2. So teachers taking, I was talking about teachers who take CELTA courses. So, and yes, this is considered to be a pre-service course, but right now we're running a CELTA course with candidates, all of whom have a lot of teaching experience. So I think the minimum, from 2 to 20 years, right? So when preparing for this webinar, I asked them to share their opinions, asked them to answer these two questions. So do you feel that your course is helping you, the course that you're taking right now, which is CELTA, is helping you to improve your teaching? Do you think this is a useful course for experienced English teachers? Right, so whether those teachers who have the experience, whether they need it or not. So let's see what they answered. Okay, I'm going to be quiet for a moment, just to give you the chance to read. So here are some of the points that I highlighted. So all the information is helpful and helps to improve teaching. Even if you think that you already know a lot, there is still more to learn. The very important things about the course are observing other teachers and working with different levels that people found interesting as well. A lot of people say that the course helped them to identify the kind of weak points in their teaching. And again, this is our professional development, because when you're observed by colleagues, experienced colleagues and more experienced tutors, there are always things that could be improved, even if you're a very good teacher, right? So some people say that their students have already kind of noticed their improvement, and this is one of the phrases that I really liked. And you can have 11 years of experience making the same mistakes without knowing them, and only taking the CELTA course will actually help you to see them. Yes, and to break some of the habits which we're not even aware of, but which could actually prevent our learners from making better progress. And this is what CELTA is about. Here are some more comments. So people mentioned the useful techniques that they learned during the course they can now use in their teaching and during teaching practice done on the course. Yeah, complimented tutors, that's very nice to hear, always. Right, so yes, some people actually commented that it's good to be a learner for a change as well, because you're always the teacher and now you're actually learning and thinking, and that's a different approach, good to be in their shoes. Some people mentioned self-reflection, and this is a great thing that we emphasize on the course at the CELTA and Delta levels. So in order to be able to progress as a teacher, you do need to reflect on what you're doing. And at the CELTA level, we actually teach those tools. We help teachers to know how to reflect on their on what they are doing in their practices and how to act on them. And yes, so some people said that it's very useful with when you have to work with groups of adults online, right? And the most important thing, I like this comment here. So you actually get to meet a lot of like-minded people who are as determined as you are to be a better teacher. So CELTA is a good course. So here's my kind of idea. So if we talk about CELTA, so you want to learn to cook, you need to know how to cut tomatoes, you're developing those skills, how to do it fast, how to do it well, how to cook everything, whether to boil the water first, what to put, how to mix ingredients, so those are the basics that have to be in place for any cook. Well, if we get to the Delta level, here, you're gonna have to think about, you need to know everything that is taught at the CELTA level. So you cannot be a chef starring in TV shows or working for a Michelin restaurant, so without having those skills, but then it actually takes it at the Delta level, we take it a step further, if not several steps further. You need to be very good at what you're doing. You need to know how intricate teaching can be. You need to present it in a nice way and in a beautiful way. And in addition to that, well, you might as well write a book on cooking or teaching, or actually do teacher training, teaching other people how to do that. But again, this is where you get with Delta and what you should be able to do after Delta. But can you do all that without knowing the basics and having built up the basic cooking skills first? Well, that's a question. Okay, that's why still CELTA is important. And after you've done your CELTA and done some teaching after that, it is a very good idea to move on and get started on your Delta qualification. So another thing that makes CELTA very different from Delta is the support that you get from the tutors. I've mentioned that before, but I cannot emphasize how important this is and how much of a distinction this is. So with the CELTA, tutors provide you with the input, they plan lessons with you, they provide you with the guidance, with the feedback on everything you do. At the Delta level, tutors actually provide you with some input, which is mostly kind of aimed at explaining some of the most difficult points about language teaching, learning, and systems and skills. But most of your knowledge will come from the literature that you read. So the tutors are there to kind of sort of push you in the right direction, give you a bit of a nudge and advise you on what to work on and how you could approach that, right? But the decisions will be made only by you. At the CELTA level, tutors sometimes are involved in the decision-making and they give you very clear guidelines. At the Delta level, it's all about you. Tutors can answer questions about the background essays that you have to write. So they can ask you questions to kind of guide you, but they're not going to give you too many answers about what you really need to do and should do. They observe only the diagnostic lesson and the lessons which are assessed by them. So that means 3 lessons during the Delta Module 2 course. And for Delta Module 3, they read drafts and they make suggestions. So basically, this is the guidance that you get. Again, Delta is mostly about you. They could advise you on which direction you need to move in, but you will be doing most of the reading and you will be more in charge of your learning. With CELTA, you just take the course and you finish it. With Delta, you sign up for the course and you start working much harder than did before. The content areas. So, for example, in the syllabus, there are only 5 content areas at the CELTA level. With the Delta Module 1, there are 6 of them, Delta Module 2, 7, and Delta Module 3, 6 content areas as well. There is some overlap, so it doesn't mean that there are 19 in total. I think it's about 10 or 11, but still, there is much more for you to learn on your own, mostly. Yes, of course, we'll be answering questions, we'll be helping and giving you some basics and giving you the push, but most of it is about your research and conclusions that you draw. So here's the CELTA. There's just 1 or 2 books to read, to mention in your assignments. It's all nice and easy. All of them are mostly on kind of language, couple of books on language teaching, maybe something on learning. Well, yeah, you have to consult some of the grammar reference books. But with the Delta level, well, you're gonna really hit the books, right? There will be a lot of things for you to look at, a lot of resources for you to consult, to research when writing your LSAs for Delta Module 2 or for writing your extended assignments. Right, Delta Module 1 exam. Yes, as I mentioned before, this is an exam. There are 2 papers in the exam. 2 papers, 8 parts. So paper 1 is 5 parts and paper 2 is 3 parts. Each of the papers is 90 minutes long. So the whole test is 3 hours and 30 minutes because you get a 30-minute break in between the 2 papers. There is only a paper-based exam available right now. So it's not possible to take it on a computer. You have to come to a center that is authorized to administer these exams and take it there and handwrite for 180 minutes, something that not many people actually enjoy nowadays. And this exam is administered only twice a year. So you can take this exam on the first Wednesday of December and the first Wednesday of June, and that's it. So the passing rate is kind of about 60%. It kind of goes up and down depending on the year, but not everyone who sits this exam actually successfully passes it. That's very important to remember that. Here are the content areas. I'm not going to work through them. You can take a screenshot now if you care, or watch the recording of this webinar a bit later. But here are the things that are looked at and which are tested in the Delta Module 1 exam. If we talk about how to prepare for the Delta Module 1 exam, well, first of all, you can prepare for this exam on your own, and kind of some people do that. If you're an experienced teacher post-CELTA, if you've done your share of reading on different methodologies, you know what assessment is about, you know the terminology there, you can actually prepare for this exam on your own, right? You just do some past papers which are available online and just go ahead, take it and see how it goes. Most courses which are offered, again, it's important to remember that for Delta Module 1, Cambridge doesn't control who runs the courses. So anyone who is considered to be smart by the management can actually do the Delta Module 1 course, right? So you don't have to be a Delta trainer, a verified Delta trainer to do this. So at our center, I'm the Delta trainer and I'm the person who works in those courses, but not all centers are like that. right? So on those courses, there will be some input, and most of them are done online. I think the vast majority would be done online. So there will be some input, but again, you need to be prepared to do a lot of reading on your own. So courses will help you with exam strategies mostly. Courses do focus on exam strategies because the tutor cannot dictate to you 20 books that you have to read while preparing for the course, for the exam. You will get feedback on the parts of the exam, so that's part of it. So you actually you get some recommendations and you talk about exam strategies that you need to use in that exam. You write that one part, you send it to the tutor gives you feedback, helping you to kind of, how shall I put it, to calibrate. Yes, the right word is to calibrate here. And in terms of what needs to be included, what's not, or doesn't, sorry, and how to improve your chances of getting kind of the best score for this part of the exam. Most of the input is done asynchronously, which means that there are tasks online that you have to do. There is some live input sessions like this one when you kind of get together in Zoom, but of course there is more interaction because those are not webinars, but there will be a lot of online tasks, online reading and online tasks that you need to complete, which could be lonely, could feel lonely at times, because the tutor just posts the answers and gives you the feedback at the end of the week. But this is how it's normally done, so do not be surprised. Some people think that when you take the Delta Module 1 exam, you're just going to sit there and feel the knowledge being poured in you. I got that from one of my CELTA candidates, and I love that quote. This is unfortunately not correct because there is too much knowledge to pour into someone, not to mention the fact that people are not empty vessels. We kind of know that as teachers, and they need to be cognitively involved with the material to retain it. Right, so yes, a lot of reading will be done on your own. Of course, there will be some summaries prepared by the tutors to make sure that you get at least the most important information from that course, but still, you need to be prepared for doing a lot of work during that course. And the most important thing is to get feedback on your tasks and the chance to ask your tutor questions if any of the reading is not clear. If you're not sure, this is an opportunity for you to ask someone who is more experienced than you are and who knows what to do with the information that you got from the books. Delta Module 2. So here, you actually have to take a course at the center, which is authorized to run Delta Module 2 courses. Right, so not many centers are authorized. It can be done online, it can be done face-to-face, it can be a blended course where again the theory is done online asynchronously, and or you do a course where you actually get the input from the trainers in face-to-face sessions. Right, you need to complete a PDA, which is a professional development assignment consisting of 2 parts, which is 500 to 4,500 words long, and it's done throughout the course, so there are different parts of it that you have to complete. And very important things are the LSAs, so those are language systems and skills assignments. And 3 of the LSAs are assessed by the tutors working on the course, who are verified by Cambridge. But LSA 4 is externally assessed. It is assessed by the assessor who observes your lesson, reads your background essay, and then decides on your grade. But you'll find out about that grade only after 2, 3, 4, sometimes even 5 months after you've taught that lesson. So it all goes into that black box and you don't know whether you passed it or not. That's the worst thing about Delta, but it's still worth it. Right, so each LSA includes a background essay, and this is where you have to research different sub-skills, you have to research systems, aspects of grammar, Alexis teaching, pronunciation, this course, to actually write a background essay on that. Then you have to teach a lesson, which consists of a lesson plan. Those lesson plans could be up to 40 pages long, 40 to 60-minute lesson that you teach, and which is observed by the tutor or the assessor, and the post-lesson evaluation, which is also assessed. All of that does mean a lot of paperwork. And you need to be prepared for that, because CELTA is not easy. It is stressful. It's even more stressful than CELTA is. And you will have to do a lot of reading and a lot of writing on your own. There will be some guidance from the tutors, but most of most of the work on that course will be done by you. So the possible grades are distinction, merit, pass, or fail. These are the possible grades for all the 3 modules, by the way. So the CELTA course that we're planning to run at our center is 16 weeks long. This is a part-time course, right? And after some experience with different courses, we decided that this is the best length for the course to make it less stressful for the candidates and for them to actually be able to combine this course with full-time job in some cases, right? So it's done completely online. Teaching and feedback is done on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. from 3 to 6 p.m. Cape time. The input is done by the tutors on Saturdays. So you get to talk with the tutors, and you get to participate in the workshops, and all of that will be done on Saturdays. You don't have to attend all Tuesdays and Thursdays, which is a good thing. You have to attend at least 5 of those, right? Because only on those days when you are teaching and when you're being observed by the tutor, the input is done on Saturdays. Right, and the days for the course are the 9th of January till the 29th of April, 2023. If you're interested, get in touch with us. I'm really excited about that course, actually. CELTA is fun, very mentally stimulating. All right, so CELTA Module 3 can be written and submitted on your own again. You just need to submit it through a center, but you can write the whole thing on your own, which is something I normally do not recommend that people do, because if people write it on their own, most of them fail. Very few people don't. You can choose a specialism from the 16 different specialisms plus the one in management. The assignment itself is 4,500 words long, but I've seen assignments which were 75 pages long with the appendices, because the 4,500 words, that's the theoretical part. But a lot of stuff, believe you me, goes into the appendices. So the course normally includes support from the tutor. If you decide to take it if you decide to do it with the help of someone. So it's good to find a center that actually offers qualified support with this, because sometimes with not many CELTA tutors want to deal with module 3, unfortunately. The support that you get from the tutor when you've chosen your specialism normally includes recommendations on the books to read for that specialism, written feedback on all the parts of the assignment. There are 4 parts, so you have to submit them separately, and you get the feedback on them with the suggestions, what to include more of, how to deal with some issues there, how to word things better, and also feedback on the final draft. Some centers do it. I know that our center does that. I've heard of centers that do not do feedback on the final draft, and that is a very important thing, because you've made the changes to the different parts that you submitted, but you haven't, when you've made them, you need to know that you've kind of done the right thing, right? So, yeah, I think this is it for CELTA Module 3. Well, that was short. All right, so how to prepare for the CELTA course. This is the time for the screenshots as well, if you are considering taking CELTA. So here's some grammar books, which may be helpful. Practical English Usage by Michael Swan. My favorite one, How English Works by Michael Swan. Yes, I am a big fan of Michael Swan, actually. Reading and listening to English to help you improve your vocabulary. That is very helpful. Doing Cambridge pre-course tasks, which will be sent to you by the center after you've been accepted, after the interview and the application process. And here are a couple of methodology books that we often recommend. So it's either Teaching Learning by Scrivener or How to Teach English. Well, or you can read both of them. You can just pick whichever one you like. Right, and this is kind of how you can help prepare for the CELTA course. If we talk about Delta, this is the top tip, sorry, of the iceberg. The first thing you need to do is to download and read the Delta handbook, which is available on cambridgeenglish.org. It is the handbook for the candidates and the tutors, and it's quite long, but I do recommend having a look at it. Try to decide which module you want to start with. Again, my recommendation would be either module 1 or module 2, but people start with module 3 as well. So research different courses and how they're done in different centers, because there is quite a variety there. You need to be aware of that. And start reading now, because there will be a lot of reading to do on teaching approaches and methodologies, discourse, phonology, assessment, and not only, there are lots of other things that you're going to have to read on, but these 4 have proved to be the most kind of problematic for most of the candidates that I've worked with, because this is a bit more specific, and it's only kind of mentioned on CELTA courses. We do not go into too much detail with those things at the CELTA level, but at the Delta level, all of those are definitely a must. And you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram, right? So this is another thing that you could actually consider doing. Right, so yeah, this is how you can prepare for the Delta course. So now back to your questions, right? So while we're talking, well, you can start writing your questions now. I can already see some there. I'll start answering them, right? So here's, well, yes, you can take CELTA and Delta with our center. Right, here are some of our happy graduates, online and face-to-face, right? And here's some information about our website, Instagram, and Facebook pages. I'm going to leave it here for now, and I'm going to get started on the questions. So yes, I have some here. Again, if there's people who join later, the question is the certificate the same if it's online or offline? Well, the answer is yes, the certificate is the same, because the mode of the course is not indicated on the certificate. The mode of the course is indicated only in the internal online report, the mode online or face-to-face is indicated in the internal report, but the certificate that you get for the CELTA course will not have the mode on it. So it's just going to be a CELTA certificate. It will have the center number where you took the course. It will have your name, and it will have your grade. Well, the slides, I don't normally share slides like that because, well, they're very specific and there is a lot of information. There is a question here about whether I can provide these slides or not, but there will be recording of this webinar on our Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube as well. Oh, I can see more questions. Here's another question. What is the difference between CELTA and TESOL? So TESOL is teaching English to speakers of other languages. So if we look at that, they should be talking about pretty much the same thing, right? However, what makes CELTA different is that, first of all, it is moderated by Cambridge. This is the standard that all of the centers have to observe, because every CELTA course is controlled by Cambridge and it is assessed by Cambridge University Assessments, Press and Assessment. That's the first thing. The second thing that makes CELTA different, and which is very important for the for the employers is the practical component, because during the course, you will have to teach real learners for 6 hours, and those 6 hours of your teaching will be observed and assessed by a tutor who is, again, verified, approved, and trained by Cambridge. Right? So that means that basically a person after the CELTA course has to do the teaching, which is the standard of which corresponds to, well, is the Cambridge standard, right? That means that you can put that teacher in a classroom and they will survive doing something good for the learners. And this is how employers know that this is a teacher that can teach. And this is what makes CELTA so respected around the world. Right. Based on the differences, here's the next question. Yes. So based on the differences between CELTA and Delta, Delta is more demanding than CELTA. Well, yes, of course, it's absolutely more demanding than CELTA is. It takes much longer time. It requires much more reading. And it will be much more difficult if you have not done CELTA before it. But yes, that is absolutely true. Delta is significantly more demanding than CELTA is. Definitely, CELTA is beneficial for novice teachers, and not only. It is beneficial for experienced teachers as well, who want to be much more confident about using the communicative approach in the classroom. And with the new world that we're living in right now, a lot of teaching is done online. So actually, this is the best thing about CELTA now, is that with the online courses, you will be a very effective teacher online who can work with groups of learners, not just one-to-one classes, and not deliver lectures like I am doing right now, but actually have people work and interact with the students, right? Is it better to start with Delta Module 1 or Delta Module 2? I will say that actually doesn't matter, because they kind of focus on different content areas. For example, Module 1 focuses on assessment. It focuses on theories on language learning and teaching. Theories of language learning and teaching and some approaches are included in the professional development assignments, well, that you will have to write during Delta Module 2. But still, I would say that you can do them in either order. Yes, of course, they will focus on developing systems, so well, teaching systems, teaching skills, both of them will focus on that. But it really doesn't matter, in my opinion. Right? Any other questions? Well, yes, it's time for us to finish now. So again, you can find us on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. So if you have any specific questions you'd like to ask us about CELTA or Delta, about the differences between the courses, you can also text us on Facebook or Instagram. So I will get that information as well. So here's the information about the upcoming courses at our center. So we have the next part-time online CELTA starting on the 27th of January, and that one is 13 weeks long. Part-time online Delta starting on the 9th of January, and online Delta Module 1 starting on the 20th of March, which is a 10-week course, right? So, well, the important thing that I could also share with you now is that at the moment, the prices in Ukraine are among the lowest, because we cannot kind of give very different prices to Ukrainians and non-Ukrainians. That wouldn't be fair, right? But we are trying to support Ukrainian teachers, and we understand that in this situation that they're in right now, they cannot pay very high prices. So we kind of kept them the same as we had them like for the last 3 or 4 years. So which means that the prices at Ukrainian centers are kind of quite low right now, but the quality is still quite good. And if anybody needs that information, here's the link to the certificate for this course. I'm going to copy and paste it in the chat box if anybody needs that or wants that. So if you follow the link, which is now available in the chat, you can download the certificate and add your name. And the fact that you got it at the end of this webinar actually goes to show that you have managed to finish it and, well, listen to me talk for the whole hour, right? So thank you very much. All right, it was good to see you here today. Thank you very much for joining us and for your time. I hope that the information was useful. I try to make it as informative as possible. That's normally the main problem with my webinars. There is a lot of information. Yeah, thank you, Mohammed. Good to see you here again. Thank you for attending our webinars. Right, so have a nice rest of the day and rest of the week. And yes, keep in touch if you have any questions. Bye.